Richard Masters, you are a fraud, a charlatan. Premier League, you can all hold that to everyone who said that Man City were in the wrong for daring to even challenge these rules. You can hold that, and you're going to have to accept that medicine. Accept this verdict. Accept tribunal. Hold that, ladies and gentlemen. In today's show, which I wasn't expecting this to happen, we are going to be discussing, I thought we were going to be discussing the Akanji injury and this weekend's match, and maybe we will discuss that, but it's impossible to not talk about what has just happened, you know, over the past hour or so. So I feel like I've got to do that. A tribunal has deemed the Premier League's sponsorship rules null and void, with an independent panel siding with Man City and deeming that associated party transaction regulations were unlawful in their entirety. That is from Mike Keegan from The Mail. There's also a piece by Matt Lawton in The Times, which we will be going through together and trying to make some sort of sense out of what has transpired. I think it's worth noting in the first instance that this is still all very early. I don't believe that this decision has actually been properly released. You know, like the Times and etc. have obviously seen the official document. I don't think that's been released to the public yet. So there's only so much that we can say about this. As in this very early stage, I was going to go live anyway. Obviously, I feel like it has to be about this. So in today's show, hopefully we can try to make some sense of what has happened. What do we know? What don't we know? What might it mean? What might it not mean? And that sort of thing. I'm obviously repping my LNobbins fraud merchandise. If you want to get your own fraud merchandise, there is a link in every single video description for the Nob shop. We can get some lovely fraud merch. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Please make sure to leave a like on the video as you are. What am I trying to say here? As you are coming in, as you're drifting into the show. Let's just get the piece up, shall we? Let's get the actual article up. I think that would make the most sense. Let me just do that and go to here. Let's see if this works. Lovely. Okay, apologies for all these bloody adverts, but this is apparently the Daily Mail, and this is apparently what they do. So, yeah. That is a thing, really, isn't it? It's a thing. Right, so Premier League in crisis as they lose legal battle with Manchester City over unlawful sponsorship rules, and the verdict could have serious consequences for all clubs. In fact, before we even get into this properly, the first thing that we need to say, I sort of like addressed it at the start of the show in a comedic way, but in all seriousness, to the people who knew literally nothing about this case and didn't even bother to try to inform themselves of this case, and who just decided that the result of City's victory in the original APT situation was nothing, and it was a bit of a nonsense, and it was a bit of more of a puff piece in the media, and how it doesn't actually mean anything, and blah, 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 blah. Shut up. And maybe this will actually teach those people that maybe you shouldn't actually assume something when you yourself don't actually know anything about it. I'm sure, like, when this broke, I was on like a live show, I believe, like when this first broke, and it just got sort of like disregarded, and it's like, but you don't even know what's happening. Like, why are you trying to disregard it? Like, what's happening? Very odd. Very unusual. Just want to point that out there. In fact, I think that there was an amazing tweet. I've bookmarked it. Where is it? How do I access my bookmarks on desktop? Here we go. Right, let's get that. Let's just go to this one here. Yes. Yes. Let's have a look at this. See if I can bring this up. So, well done, Rob. Well done, mate. Well done. The more you read of the Man City APT judgment, the more it seems to me you would have to be a juvenile with extremely limited intellectual and analytical capacity to declare this a, quote, victory for Man City. Yeah, do better next time, Rob. Do better next time. But there we go. That was just one of the few things about that. I mean, I can show you my bookmarks. My bookmarks are just boring football stuff, to be honest with you. So, and this was like a common, even though clearly Man City did win that case, this was like the common sentiment from a lot of people. So, you know, well done, Rob. Well done to people like that. Yeah, you absolutely mudded. And I hope that maybe in the future you can do better in terms of these things and maybe don't jump to conclusions when you don't clearly understand what's happening. I mean, blatantly. So that's that. That's that. Oh, another thing as well, just as we get into this, I say that there's also an article in the Times that I want to get into as well. Who are, actually, two of Lawton's pieces are relevant here. I will get into that in a moment. Again, sorry, we'll get into that very shortly. What does this mean? As we'll get into it in a moment, what does this mean for the likes of, you know, Richard Masters and the Premier League generally, who rushed through all of these amendments and just decided that actually the whole thing with the APT situation, it's a much of a muchness, and this can all just be quite easily done, and we just need to move on with it, and like basically it's the exact same situation, we just need a tiny little amendment. So that clearly hasn't happened, has it? Nor will it happen again. We'll get into that shortly. Do I need to do a quick recap of what APT is? I think it's worth noting, I did a video on APT like a few months ago after Man City's victory, and it was a victory. This is totally separate from the whole 115 situation, so don't think this has any bearing or relevance to that. Essentially, an associated party transaction from a Man City perspective would be Man City's owner is Sheikh Mansour, who's a member of the UAE royal family. As an example, Etihad, I believe, is owned by the Sovereign Wealth Fund of the UAE. I'm pretty sure that's still the case. The Sovereign Wealth Fund is owned by the ruler of Abu Dhabi. Sorry, am I saying UAE? I meant to say more specifically, it's Abu Dhabi. Therefore, from the Premier League's rule writing perspective, they are an associated party. You know, so when Etihad come to City or vice versa, and there is a negotiation for a new deal, this has to go through the Premier League's associated party transaction rules, because as far as they are concerned, the way that it was drafted, they are an associated party. It is caught under that definition and terminology. It's worth noting that, again, unless I'm talking out of my arse here, I'm pretty confident that UEFA concluded that the two were not associated parties, and it's also worth noting that from a legal perspective, the two are not associated parties. It is only the Premier League's very specific and, or rather general, overarching umbrella terms, which make it so that the two are associated parties. So that I feel like that's relevant, and we'll get into, like, you know, the whole targeted attacks on City and Newcastle, whoever you want to talk about it, because I do think that is what is happening. But, you know, I've spoken enough there. Let's get into the actual articles, shall we? So as I say, this is all free to read. This is from the Daily Mail. This is from Mike Keegan specifically, who's done a lot of reporting on the whole APT situation. So, and again, there's also like one from in the Times, which we'll get into in a moment. Please make sure you're leaving a like on the video. I will get into the chat in a moment. We can maybe talk about actual football stuff, but it is important to talk about this because this is literally breaking news, only updated less than an hour ago. The Premier League has suffered a significant setback after a tribunal deemed its sponsorship rules null and void. Isn't that lovely? Never thought I'd like to see the terms null and void before, and yet here we are. There's Jack Grealish. In a bombshell verdict that can now trigger a series of giant compensation claims, we'll get into that in a moment, and plunge the competition into crisis, an independent panel has sided with champions Manchester City. An independent panel has sided with champions Manchester City and deemed the league's APT regulations, which ran from 2021 in December through to 2024 November, were unlawful in their entirety. Very brief recap on why these rules were even in place. Can you guys remember what happened in December 2021? This was around the time of the whole Newcastle takeover. So essentially, I mean, really, it should be Newcastle and Newcastle fans who are more onto this than City and City fans, because these were basically colloquially known as the Newcastle regulations. Basically, there was a fear from these clubs that Newcastle would, with their new owners, would just get a fuckload of money and would be able to spend it willy-nilly. So that's why these rules were initially brought in. Man City, I think I'm getting my history right here. Again, this is breaking news here. I'm pretty sure that at the time, Man City abstained or voted against them. Can't remember exactly. Don't worry, Nitin. We'll talk about Newcastle after. I just feel like we need to talk about this first of all. Yes, the City abstained, and they said, look, now we think these rules, we've been informed, these rules that you brought in are actually illegal. Now, we're not going to do anything yet. We reserve our rights, to potentially challenge this, but right now we're not going to do anything. But if you introduce more rules and regulations, then we will have to do something about it. I think it was in January 2024, that's when they updated the rules and made them even more stringent and harsh. And at that point, City took legal action. That then led to the case, which City ultimately won because of the whole shareholder loan situation. The Premier League amended the rules. We'll get into whether it was a correct amendment or not. There's a current legal challenge about those rules. So this one is to do with that section of rules. It's all very weird and complicated, and there's many moving parts. Hopefully I've half explained it okay. I don't claim to be an expert on this at all. And I've not had sight of the judgment either. So if I have sight of that, then maybe we can do another show on it. After proposed deals with Etihad, First Abu Dhabi Bank, and I believe there was one more that we went through on stream. I can't remember what it was, though. City took the Premier League to court, declaring war. They claimed the league's APT rules were unlawful. In September last year, a tribunal agreed with City, highlighting three elements which he deemed unlawful, one to do with shareholder loans. And that was quite a big stink because there wasn't enough interest charged on those loans, which is, objectively unfair, I think it's fair to say. Because they weren't subject to the same fair market value tests included in the APT rules. A row then erupted between City and the Prem, with the latter claiming a number of tweaks would suffice. And this was the main point of contention, I think. City said, and City's legal representative, I can't remember who it was exactly, he came out and said, look, the Premier League are at risk of just having the exact same situation here, because just simply doing a very simple amendment ain't going to cut it. There's a bit more going on here than just, take this out, change that wording there, and everything will be fine and dandy. It needed a lot more amendment than that. By the way, this bears nothing on the 115 situation. I said that at the top of the show, but maybe we missed that. Yeah, this has got no bearing on the 115. This is something entirely different. Here it is. Masters endorsed the APT rules and added it found certain discrete elements. Now, this is where the incompetence comes into play, because this was clearly wrong. Clearly wrong. And again, City's legal people came out and said, guys, please do not rush this, because if you do, and if you get it wrong, then we will challenge you again, because you're going to make the same mistake again. That challenge is still ongoing. And again, what a surprise. Masters wrong on that one. Let's keep scrolling. In a blistering response to clubs, here we go, City's counsel Simon Cliff warned against making hasty amendments and urged those involved to delay any further action until the tribunal had returned a further verdict on whether their previous ruling meant the whole system rather than certain sanctions was unlawful. And that was the point. That was the point. One party was saying, no, slight amendments are fine. The other one was saying, guys, it's a bit more serious than that. Maybe take your time on it. I was staggered at how quickly they tried to get the amendments in, given how much time was spent on this verdict, given how long and clearly, from their perspective, inconclusive the judgment and decision was. They asked for further clarification. I do remember that. Yeah, their view was the ruling meant the entire setup was null and void. City took the seismic step of accusing the Prem of attempting to mislead its leaders. However, that being said, the Premier League club still voted to pass them through. Now, this is an important point that I feel like needs to be brought up. Clubs voted in amendments to APT rules by a majority. The reason why I think that's important to be brought up is because I remember at the time, there was this very weird sort of idea or suggestion that basically City should shut up and just keep the rules as is. Who actually cares? And that it's irrelevant if the rules are unlawful because the clubs are following them, so who cares? Now, that is an insane thought process to have, isn't it? Just because a company wants to do something or an organization wants to do something and a number of other clubs or organizations or companies also want to do it, and they go, yeah, this is in our rules. If those rules are unlawful, you can't follow them. Do you know what I mean? And that happened a lot. That happened a lot, like on different panel shows that I went on. It was basically, oh, what's the big deal? All the clubs want to do it, so who cares? It's like, if it's against the law, it's against the law. What are we doing here? I didn't actually think that had to be explained. Surely the starting point is, well, if it is in breach of the law, surely it's probably not something that we should be keeping, right? Nah, just allow it. And if you don't like that, then you can go out and find another competition. Do you remember how insane that thought process was at the time? I think it was Simon Jordan on TalkSport, maybe. I might be misquoting him there. But I'm pretty sure that he basically said, if City don't like the rules, then why don't they just leave and go to La Liga or whatever it was? I'm pretty sure that's what some commentators said in the media and on social media. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. That is an insane starting point and an insane point of view. I just thought that was worth raising. I never could understand that. I could never understand that. You are so blinded by bias and partisan that you actually want to ignore the sanctity of the law. It's very odd. Very odd. Anyway. And I tell you what, actually. If you don't like the new laws that come in, if you don't like the fact the City are challenging illegal laws, why don't you go out to another league? Yeah? If you don't like the rules, you leave, mate. Anyway, now in the verdict, which underlines City's position. Look at this. Beautiful. And which may have serious ramifications for the Prem. The panel, so this is the independent panel, by the way. So if people want to go and research these people and see that, City have apparently bribed these people. We've apparently bribed, I'm sure in brown envelopes, legal experts Christopher Vajja, that's a great name, he's a KC. Lord Dyson, you see the one that makes the vacuum cleaners, and Sir Nigel, has returned its final verdicts, ruling the regulations were unlawful in their entirety. In their entirety. Not just little baby elements, in its entirety. And that was what City's point was. That means any deals that were rejected or reduced in value under the system, which operated between December 21 and November 24, could now be subject to hefty compensation claims. Now, I don't know how relevant that last bit is. I'll get onto my thoughts on why I think City are so dead fast on challenging these rules. I don't think the City's end goal is to get money from the Premier League. I don't think that's their end goal. I'll maybe get into what I think their end goal is. If a club believes its competitive performance was harmed by a decision made under the previous APT system, it could sue. City have also launched a legal challenge against the amended rules voted through in November. The same panel is due to rule on their legality in the near future. That's something that we discussed before. Should they deem those unlawful, the league could be thrown into chaos. Now, I'm not Nostradamus, but I would suspect that if the previous rules were deemed unlawful, and if only slight amendments were made to these new rules, one could potentially reasonably conclude that these new rules will also be deemed unlawful. Now, again, maybe I'm jumping the gun there, and that remains to be seen, but that would be my personal prediction. I don't know, but that's my personal prediction. Is that the end of the article? And here we go. Yeah, again, this is what we said at the top of the show. Sadly, this has got nothing to do with the 115. Very different case with it. That's a much more important and serious case. The Premier League may now have to foot not only its own legal bill, but also City's. The figure of both combined is thought to be close to £20 million. Good Lord. Masters made clubs aware of the situation in an email this afternoon. I would love to see that email. I would love to see that. Can someone please leak that, please? Can someone at City, I'm not condoning, breaking the rules or whatever, but, you break the rules. Can someone please leak that email? I would love to see what Masters said. I would love to see how the tenor of his message. Oh, here we go. There already is some wording here. He acknowledged previous rules as a while are void and unenforceable, but attempted to play down the development. Why is he playing down the development? Why can't he just accept that he stinks a piss? The previous APT rules are no longer in place. New rules were voted into force. The league has previously told clubs this decision was about the legal status of previous APT rules and would not impact the operation of new rules. That remains to be seen. Okay, that's my favorite line in the whole article. Well done. Was it Mike Keegan? Just want to double check. Yeah, shout out Mike Keegan. That's a bar, man. That is a bar. That's a mic drop sentence, that. Where was it? So you got Masters here going, we've already told clubs this decision was about the legal status of the previous rules. It's not going to impact the operation of new rules. That remains to be seen. Masters added, new rules remain in force, yeah, for now, mate, and clubs remain required to comply with them. APT rules were brought in following the Saudi, this is what we said at the start, of Newcastle amid concerns from other clubs aimed at preventing inflated injections, City, whose case was led by Paul Harris, Casey and Lord Panic, Freshfields, massive firm, will see the verdict as an entire vindication of their stance throughout the entire process. And why wouldn't you? You've been saying for however long that you guys are wrong and we are right, and you have just been proven right. So yeah, they should absolutely be vindicated. Well done there, 100%. The 18-page final award. See, I want to see this. I want to see this final award. I want to have a proper look at it. If someone could please let me know if it is out there in the world. I don't think it has been revealed, but if it has been, I'd love to have a look at it. Because the Mail have seen it, so obviously it's been revealed by someone. The 18-page final award seen by the Mail states, in the first partial final award, it was declared APT rules and amended APT rules were unlawful in 3 respects. 3 of them. There now arises the question whether those 3 respects can be severed from the remaining APT rules so that those remaining APT rules are valid and enforceable. And this will be the key, won't it? Because City have lodged another legal case in respect of these new rules that were rushed through. The 3 respects in which the APT rules and amended rules were unlawful cannot be severed with the result of the APT rules as a whole are void and unenforceable. Attention will now shift to the latest legal challenge. Should the tribunal again find in City's favour, it may well allow the likes of City and Newcastle to strike significantly higher agreements with current sponsors. Now, there weren't... we've had a super chat. Thank you so much from KP Masters. Here's your fortune. A letter of great importance may reach you any day now. Is that the real Masters in the chat? If so, it'll be a letter from Man City suing you again. Thank you for the super chat, mate. IMO City's endgame is to expose the Premier League bias and corruption. They are demonstrating why an independent regulator is needed. I suppose the main issue with that, though, in terms of the independent regulator is things like this. Now, I don't know exactly what the budget was for an independent regulator, but I would suspect that we probably don't want the, I doubt it's going to have this much money. You know, we are talking tens of millions of pounds. And this isn't even the 115 case where that's going to be even more expensive and costly. So I don't even know if they'd be able to afford that. Thank you so much, KP Masters, for your super chat. Incredibly generous. So that's from Mike Keegan from the Mail, who again has done a lot of reporting on this entire situation. This was also from the Times. I've had to create an account to get into this one, so, you know, you better be happy that I've done this. I mean, it's free to do, but, you know, I had to give them my email address and everything. Anyway, so this is from Matt Lawton in the Times. City victory as Premier League sponsorship rules are declared void. Let's see if there's any new info here. Rival clubs could now seek compensation. Oh, that's what I was going to say, just on the valuation of deals. Again, it's an argument which keeps being peddled by people who don't know what they're talking about. Man City are not trying to, and indeed Etihad are not trying to make it so that they can receive 20 trillion quid from Etihad. Like that's never even been the starting point. Whether you want to believe it or not, Etihad's Etihad, you know, CEO or whoever it was, either then or at the time, now has continually come out and said, this is a profitable transaction between us and City, and we are happy with how it's gone. Now, if you want to believe that, or if you don't want to believe that, then that's sort of your problem. There's nothing I can really do about that. But that's what they are saying. So it's not like Etihad, if these APT rules get blown apart, Etihad are not tomorrow going to go, right, guys, here's £100 billion. That has never been the starting point. And if you do think that was ever the starting point, then you simply don't know enough about the subject to talk about it. And that sounds very arrogant, but I think it's still nevertheless correct. So if that is your starting point, there's nothing I can say to that apart from that's objectively incorrect and you are wrong. You might as well have said that 3 plus 3 is 12. That is the level of correctness in that statement. Anyway, back to this. The Premier League's been dealt a devastating blow, love that language, in its legal battle with City after its sponsorship rules enforced between 21 and 24 were declared void. Interpretation was that the rules were entirely void. Yeah, the rules introduced. Yeah, we've touched on that. The tribunal. Yeah, we've touched. This is a similar article. The decision could have consequences. It'll be viewed by City's legal team as a significant victory, 100%. The conclusion, oh, here we go, maybe a bit more information here. The conclusion of the 18-page second partial final award reads as follows. In the first partial final award, it was declared the APT rules and amended rules were unlawful. There now arises for decision the question whether those... Oh, no, sorry, this is the exact same as before, wasn't it? Yeah, this is the same wording. The first partial award in October was publicly disputed by City and the Prem. After that, Simon Cliff, City's general counsel, urged clubs to wait for the second award, and they didn't. Richard Masters, the Premier League executive, insisted their legal interpretation had endorsed the APT rules. It hadn't, only identifying certain discrete elements that they need to be amended. Masters argued the unlawful elements could simply be taken out, leaving the remainder in place. That was a foolish thing to think. City argued that was not possible. The tribunal had agreed with them and found the rules to be unlawful as a matter of competition law and public law. Now, I will say that this was never my strong point in terms of when I was actually in the industry. I thought the competition law was fucking boring. So do not expect me to be able to explain to you correctly why. Times reported last week, City launched a new arbitration on the amended APT rules. Should they also be declared void, it would open the door for the English champions to strike significantly higher sponsorship agreements with Etihad, etc. And again, if you actually read that judgment, the figures that we're talking about are not astronomically high or astronomically far apart from what would have been permitted. In a letter sent to the... we've read that. The league statement said it believes the new APT rules are valid and enforceable Well, we shall see, won't we? Because there's also this case going on, which was early February, so last week, launching a fresh legal claim against the Premier League sponsor rules. This is in terms of those really quickly amended rules, which are, in my view, based on the conclusion of this, based on Masters' own words, saying, oh, we only needed a few slight tweaks. Well, if you've only slightly tweaked regulations which have been deemed unlawful, that to me, just from instinctively, suggests that that's not going to be good enough. Now, time will tell. Of course it will. We'll see. But it's pretty damning, in my view, in terms of, like, the Premier League. It does not look good at all in this. They've made a number of blunders here. And it is quite, I mean, for me anyway, it's quite funny. There was another good tweet. Oh, here it is. Yeah, from Sam Lee. It is awkward for the, quote, if they don't like the rules, they should leave the league argument that the tribunal has decided the rules actually weren't fair at all. And then there's the Premier League trying to carry on as if nothing / little had happened. So, I mean, really, what should be happening is all other Premier League clubs should be thanking Manchester City for exposing these rules as unlawful. So I expect that thank you to be in the post ASAP, to be honest with you. I expect that thank you to be in the post ASAP. The Premier League have released a statement. Oh, have they now? I imagine it will be, oh, this doesn't stop the new rules being okay. And we've just touched on that, haven't we? I imagine it'll be the same statement as last time. I'm not seeing a statement. Let me know where I need to look to find that statement. Whoever said that. Darth, let me know. I can't see one immediately. But do let me know if anything does happen and I can have a look at it. So there we go, guys. The Premier League have lost again. They've lost twice in a row. We've done the APT double over them. We've done the APT double. Yeah? Who needs a Premier League title when you got a fucking cup double of APTs, yeah? We can go for a treble with this new one that got launched last week as well. With that fresh legal challenge. Time will tell. Time will tell. I still can't see this Premier League statement, so I don't know if I'm missing it. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Now, before even reading this, so I've got the statement now. Thank you, guys. I've not read it yet. I've literally just got it up on my screen right now. My prediction is that this statement is incredibly... what's the term I'm after? It's incredibly too... I can't think of what word I'm after. I'm thinking. Heavy-handed. That's what I think. And I think it's going to come across as relatively, like, rushed. And I think it's going to come across as dismissive as well. My prediction is that they'll basically be saying, oh, nothing's wrong. We knew these rules were unlawful. That's why we've got these other ones. It's absolutely fine now. Yeah, dismissive. That's another good word, yeah. So let's get this open, shall we? Let's have a look. In fact, let's get this on the screen. I can read it with you guys. Premier League statements. Okay, maybe not riddled with spelling errors. That's not what I meant by rushed. I meant more like, you know, in terms of like their attitudes. But let's have a look. See, maybe I'm wrong. As I say, I'm genuinely reading this as you guys are reading it. An arbitration tribunal has determined the effects of its first award published last year relating to City's legal challenge of the Prem's APT rules. Okay. The tribunal's decision has found that the three narrow aspects... Okay. Right, so immediately... It's irrelevant how narrow that shit is, mate. It was fucking unlawful. Are you okay? Yeah, knee-jerk, that's another good one, Matali. That's the first little weaselly term that I've clocked onto there. Oh, it's only narrow. Shut up. That's what you sound like. Shut up. Anyway. Previously found to be unlawful cannot be separated from the rest of the previous rules as a matter of law. The results, I love that terminology, as a matter of law. The result the tribunal has determined is that the previous APT rules as a whole are beautiful, unenforceable, beautiful. Oh, here it is. However, we got the fancy term there. However, the previous APT rules are no longer in place. Okay, that's not incorrect. As clubs voted new APT rules into force in November 2024. Yes, we know, and you hurried through them. This decision expressly does not impact the valid operation, of the new rules. That's not incorrect. That's not incorrect. That's true. That's true. That's why we've got that fresh legal challenge on in the background. The tribunal has made no findings as to the validity and effectiveness of the new rules. That's because they haven't looked at the new rules yet, you fucking idiot. The tribunal states that whether its decision has any benefit to the club, therefore, depends on whether the new APT rules are found to be lawful as part of the second challenge issued by the club last month. The league continues to believe that the new APT rules are valid and enforceable and is pressing for an expeditious resolution of this matter. The new APT rules are in full force, and clubs remain required to comply with all aspects of the system, including to submit shareholder loans to the Premier League for fair market value assessment. Thank you so much, Bevo. Incredibly generous super chat. Doing more winning off the pitch, mate. Hey, we got to pick our battles this season, mate. Bevo, fortune for you. You are not a person who can be ignored. But you can't if you give a super chat. Absolutely not. That'd be rude. Thank you so much, mate. Okay. This, I would suggest... Oh, wait. Oh! We got it, boys! We got the award! Oh, yeah! Now we can actually read it. Bosh. Shall we read this on stream, guys? How many pages is it? 18 pages. Guys, would you like to read it in all its glory? We got the actual decision! Now, maybe this award was already out there, but I found it on stream. Big up. Found it. It was Premier League gave it to me. Right. So just before we get into that, just before we get into the award, what's my take on this? What's my take on this thing? Apologies. It's just there's something in my Nana's care group. Just give me a moment, guys. Just give me a second. Sorry, there's just been... Okay, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Okay, cool. Right. Right, yeah. So, in terms of this statement, here's my sorts of thoughts on it. You haven't learnt your lesson? Really? Like, this comes across as incredibly, as we predicted, dismissive and short and also not really properly acknowledging that you were wrong and then wrong again. And then I think also maybe like a little apology that you implemented rules that were unlawful. There is zero accountability here. This statement is offering no apology or even no true acknowledgement that what they were doing was wrong. They've alluded to it by saying that they were unlawful. And even then, it just doesn't come across as, we really care. Do you get me? It's incredibly like, oh, whatever. That doesn't matter. You were implementing rules that were unlawful? Like, do you not think that there should be a greater response than that? That's how I see it. I don't know if I'm reading too much into that, but it comes across as very blasé and, oh, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Like, they've basically said, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. It is deep. It was against the law. It's pretty deep, my guy. You know? So that's odd. Those are my thoughts on the statement. Again, very similar to how they responded to how they responded in the when it first came out, and they were like, "Oh, we welcome the conclusion of the tribunal because actually we all need minor amendments." Shut up. That's what we sound like, knobhead. Right. Anyway, let's have a look at this. We won't read all of it. It is 18 pages long. To be fair, that's, I've read the cast judgment on stream, and that was like 100 or something. Okay, so yeah. The claimant, Man City, had sought declaration the rules were unlawful. What's the official act? Just the Competition Act. Okay, we're dealing with the Competition Act. Okay, got it. Premier League think they're above the law, says Sean. Breaches of the Competition Act were alleged under 6 headings. The tribunal found the APT rules and amended rules were unlawful in just 2 respects by reason of being in breach of the Act, namely the exclusion of shareholder loans and the amended rules and the pricing changes in the amended rules. Okay. Tribunal also found the rules were unlawful in just 1 respect by reason of being in breach of the requirements of public law, namely the inability of a member of the Prem to comment upon the comparable transaction data. Oh yeah, there was also a data stink, wasn't there? We've touched on that in the past. The City have sought a declaration the effect of basically City have gone, what does this actually logistically mean? The effect of the declarations issued by the tribunal was not an issue at the June hearing, and so the first partial final award did not deal with it. Okay, the Premier League has challenged the jurisdiction of the tribunal to meet the further declaration sought by City. If the tribunal has such jurisdiction, the Premier League says that in circumstances where the rules were amended, the further declaration sought should not be granted because it has been overtaken by events and is therefore academic. They are so fucking slimy in like they're just massive knobheads, aren't they? Just the terminology they use and the way they're doing it and how dismissive they are. Like, shut up, guys. Let's have a look at what the independent tribunal had to say in full. So this is just to do with jurisdiction. Is it okay? The club contends void. The club contends the rules are void. Yes, that's fine. No new information there. There's no dispute. The tribunal may properly refuse to grant the remedy. The tribunal therefore considers the issue to address and determine the severance issue. Okay, yeah. So this is just about the acts. I'm not gonna read you guys the Competition Act of 1998. So this is the thing. This is what the Premier League were arguing. I should probably zoom in more, shouldn't I? Sorry. There we go. There we go. That's better, isn't it? This is what the Premier League were trying to argue you could do. That basically you could make a slight amendment and the rest of it is absolutely fine. If you can just make a tiny little tweak, then you don't actually need to have a wholesale change. You just need to have a little baby amendment. That was their argument, and I thought that was always mental. As we've found out here, it's not quite the case. Big letters, I'm scared now. Okay, maybe that is too zoomed in. Maybe I'll like zoom out a little bit more. There we go. Blue pencil, blue moon, amazing. Oh gosh. Yeah, so this is just to do with case law. Got it. Shareholder loans not subject to the APT rules. Yeah, that's a massive L for you. Response. Yeah, so there's a lot of back and forth. This is basically just giving us the context of it. I'll read this on my own, I think, after the stream. I don't want to read all of this out. I'm just trying to find the highlights, I guess. The starting point of the debate in that case was that the agreement as a whole was unenforceable. It was a non-compliant CFA. See paragraph 6 of the judgment. Stuart Smith, what a boy. Severance not possible. Blah, 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 blah. In our judgment, it makes sense in the present context where the exclusion of shareholder loans from the APT rules has been held to be unlawful to consider the issue of severance. Yeah, that's fine. Give me to the juicy bit. Okay, shareholder loans, yes, understood. Fair market value, God, that's our favourite buzz term, isn't it? Fair market value. If the shareholder loan... Okay, I think this might be relevant. If the shareholder loan exclusion is severed, it follows that APT rules would apply to shareholder loans. Given that the treatment of shareholder loans was regarded by the Prem as a constitutive rule, which helps define the Premier League, quote, both sporting competition and product, that is an indication that a change in the treatment of shareholder loans is to be considered as a major change, both to the APT rules and the rules as a whole. So this is contradictory to the whole... all we need to do is a little baby change. Nah. Major, not minor, major. Yeah? It is certainly not a minor change. Despite what the Premier League was suggesting could happen. Okay. It's a very significant expansion in the legal effect of the APT and amended rules. Since the different treatment of shareholder loans as compared with other APTs is an obvious distortion of competition. An obvious distortion of competition. That's a lovely phrase. Oh! Yeah, that's not so narrow, is it? You little knobhead. Okay. We've also got careful consideration. We not accept the submission be regarded as irrelevant. Suggested by council. Okay. For the reasons summarised above, we conclude that the change brought by the voidness of the shareholder loan inclusion was, in the required sense, major. Major. It follows. It is not possible to sever the shareholder loan exclusion with the result that all the APR rules and amended APT rules are void. It is not possible to do it. Whether or not the club will benefit from our conclusion is not possible. It will depend on whether the club succeeds in its contention that the November 2024 rules are also void. Okay, so this is quite important. Whether or not the club will benefit from our conclusion in this partial final award that the rules and amended rules are void because severance of the shareholder loan exclusion is not possible will depend on whether the club succeeds in its contention that the November rules are also void. So this is like a nice little preamble, but in terms of what realistically matters, it's the ongoing situation. It's the ongoing case. That remains to be seen what happens there, of course. So this is like hopefully a nice little warm-up to the main event, you get me? A little pre-show, Okay. Premier League seeks to... Okay, here we go. It is, we think, common ground that if one considers the amended rules and seeks to apply the blue pencil test, one could not do so without adding words. For example, whilst the word would could be removed, one would have to add the word could, and that is what one cannot do. The Premier League seeks to overcome this difficulty by saying that one can apply the blue pencil test to the instrument which introduced the amendments, namely the notes dated 9th of Feb. The instrument, if that instrument's removed, the APT rules will be left in place. It was not explained to us why... So they're basically shitting. They are basically shitting on the Premier League's argument there. So the Premier League said that we could just do this. Okay, but how are you allowed to do that? That's class. That's like just, I don't know, that just comes across to me as like the panel have basically just said you're a fucking idiot. It was not explained to us why such an approach was permissible. Okay, you said you could do that, but why? All that was said was the club agreed the unamended rules were left in place, and so there's no dispute. In his oral submissions, the amended rules were a contract. We consider the pricing changes they cannot satisfy the blue pencil test for the reasons explained by the club. Oh, explained by the club. So the club's argument was a good one. Yeah, they like City. God, we must have paid these lads a lot of money to say these nice words about us. Words would have to be written in, and that is not permissible. That is not permissible, ladies and gentlemen. As we have observed above, there is no principle basis upon which one can apply the blue pencil test to the instrument rather than to the text. For this reason, severance of the pricing changes is not possible. It is not possible. Narrow. Never forget that. Never forget that wording by the Premier League. Narrow. The result is that the amended APT rules are void. Yeah, hold that. Hold that. Okay. Provides as follows. Yeah. Provides as follows. The submission now made by the Prem. They're taking the piss, this panel. That aside is so, like, I don't know, like, not petulant's not the right word, but it's so, like, sarky. Do you get what I mean? The submission now made by the Premier League, it was not made at the first hearing. I just love the way that's worded, because they're basically saying that, well, they are illustrating that the lack of competence on display here. It's like, you're now saying this. You didn't say it in the past. Like, do you want to have, like, a consistent string to your arguments, or what? That's quite funny. Yeah, whoever wrote this, man. Whoever wrote this. Please give them a raise. Whoever did, like, the final drafting. That's so funny to me. Again, here's another one. Although we did not consider the submission of the Premier League in the first partial final award, brackets, because it had not been made. There is no need to say that. There is no need for them to say that in brackets. That's so funny to me. It's apparent that we consider the rule was consistent with the clause. Okay. I love these little asides, man. That's so funny. We therefore do not consider the Premier League rules can be construed as permitting disclosure of comparable transaction data. Okay, the Premier League's alternative submission is that the question of severance does not arise. We therefore conclude that the question of severance does not arise. In our view, it's clear that the blue pencil test cannot be satisfied. Insofar as the Premier League seeks to rely on the doctrine of severance, whether as applied in contract, it's clear that textual severance is not possible, and that the textual severance the Premier League seeks to put forward is not one that we can be satisfied, affects no change. Yeah, they are trolling, aren't they? In the first partial final award, it was declared the rules and amended rules were unlawful. There now arises for decision the question whether those three respects can be severed from the remaining APT rules so that those remaining rules are valid. This question had not arisen before because no submissions had been made. The three respects in which the rules were unlawful cannot be severed with the result. The APT rules as a whole are void and unenforceable. There remains for decision whether the November rules are valid and effective. So that is still in play, of course. Thank you so much, Christopher, Dyson, Nigel. Big up, Nigel. Who's your favourite of Nigel, Christopher, and Dyson? I reckon Lord Dyson had a lot of that RC writing in the bracket. So big up Lord Dyson, man. He's my favourite Lord. The three aspects in which the APT rules and amended rules were unlawful cannot be severed with the result that the APT rules as a whole are void and unenforceable. That all questions of costs are reserved. Signed by those three boys. That is hilarious. I can't get... They've basically said that the Premier League are shit in terms of constructing arguments and are shit in terms of putting those arguments in the correct order. So, hilarious. Very funny. Very, very funny. And honestly, again, you can hold that. You can hold that. What was the really funny one? I can't remember the really funny one that was so opposite narrow. I'll have to go back. I'm going to have to tweet that because that was just comical. Like, it was anything but major or something like that. I can't remember the exact wording. So, that is unless there's any more updates, I don't think. As of yet, I'll refresh the Twitter, see if anything else is happening. Kieran Maguire, holy moly, Valentine's night cancelled. Ben Jacobs, Man City have won their legal case against the Prem after an independent panel deemed the rules unenforceable. We've got a KC. Nick DeMarco KC. Big up to you, Nick. He says, it was my view at the time that the consequences of the previous decision was bound to be the entire APT scheme was unlawful. It was surprising how many people did not recognize it. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, this Masters guy, man. Absolute charlatan. Useless. Idiot. Oh, here it is. A big up to Stefan SLBSN on Twitter, who's just retweeted this. And this just goes back to what the sentiment was at the time. Man City's defeat lays bare strength of coalition against them. Sam Wallace. Are you okay, Sam? Are you okay, mate? What is this? Are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Jesus, man. And there were so many of those people at the time. Fortune for Dr. Footy PhD in Hateology. You have an unusually magnetic personality. Thank you for the super chat, mate. Not related to APT, but confidence for 115 is high. Well, we know the club are very confident on that. We know the club are extremely, and they always have been extremely confident. We've got over 500 people watching, which is great. Please make sure to leave a like on the video, guys. Let's get to 250 or 300 likes. The more likes, the more viewers. The more viewers, the happier I am, because I can pay my bills, yeah? So, big up to you guys for that. Well, one absolute shit show. One absolute shit show from the Premier League. What a surprise. I think we said at the time, didn't we, that it just whatever side of the argument that you are on, if you are a reasonable human being with half a brain, the only conclusion you can reach is that the Premier League are incredibly useless and don't actually know what they are doing. That is evident. Whatever side of the argument you go on, whether you think that whether you think that City are guilty in the 115 or not, surely you can only conclude that the Premier League are a bunch of incompetent oafs. And some heads have to roll. Surely. Surely. It's a really weird stance that they've taken in all of this. It's incredibly combative and incredibly unnecessarily argumentative. Haven't even really accepted they did anything wrong when they literally had unlawful rules. If anything, and for some reason, with all these social media people, City being portrayed as the bad guy, as, you know, the big baddie who's bullying the Premier League when they are doing what they are entirely within their rights to do, and rightly challenge, within the confines of the law, illegal rules. I never thought we'd have a day where the bad guy is trying to make rules legal. But that is the situation we are in. That is the state of play. Such is partisan and bias. There we go. Again, I'm gonna say it again, guys. Fraud. Fraud. Hold that. Hold that. If you guys want your fraud merch, link in the video description. Support your boy. Get some really nice, clean clothing as well. Premier League trying to blag it, says Dave. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I know I've done a lot of talking there, not too much engaging with the chat. I do promise I have been looking at your comments as well. Shall we go to the chat now, maybe? And we can maybe have a chat about that. Oh, that's maybe what I was going to conclude. That's maybe what I was going to conclude. Wait. 1 second. Something funny may have come up. 1 second. Okay, right. Yeah, okay. It's everyone's favourite commenter, whatever the term is, I don't know. I've never actually had a conversation with this chap, to be wrong. So he wrote this. When did he write this? God, there's a lot of nothing here. 9th of Feb. Okay. So this was 2 days after City launched their fresh challenge. Okay. So he's giving a brief recap. Although parts of the rules were declared unlawful, the entire set were not, absolutely. Before the tribunal could clarify whether they were unlawful holistically, I mean, all you had to do was actually read the judgment and you would have like reached that conclusion yourself, but whatever. The Prem managed to pass a vote updating the rules. Again, just because they passed the rules doesn't mean that it's correct to do so. At which point the original tribunal's decision became redundant. Not really. This has led Man City to issue a new action against the updated rules. It should be noted that only one commentator on the case said this would happen. All others suggested the original tribunal would make a ruling. Okay. Given the Premier League addressed the aspects of the rules that the original tribunal had declared unlawful, Man City's action is a stretch. You okay, mate? You sure about that? You sure about that? Yeah, didn't think so. Didn't think so. Once it proven wrong once again. Weird. Weird. Anyway, I just thought that was quite funny. I think Phil Casso commented on that. That's why it came up, because I'm obviously not following this guy. Yeah, Phil Casso. If the audio's glitching, refresh, guys. It's nothing to do with me. If the audio's glitching, refresh. If the audio's glitching, refresh. It's nothing to do with me. Big up Phil Casso. It legitimately has to be unhealthy to get publicly embarrassed as many times as you have now. Oh, big up, man. Big up to Phil. He's funny. Oh, right. Anyway. Who's this? Who said this? This is Mark Douglas, Northern football correspondent. The APT win for City looks, to me at least, like Premier League getting tripped up by desperation to rush through amendments after Newcastle takeover in 21. Felt wrong, then proved wrong now. Absolutely. Guys, I'll say it again. Refresh your YouTube. It's nothing to do with me. I can promise you that. Refresh your YouTube. Please. Whenever that happens, refresh. Oh. Yeah, nice. So I'm just having a look at my timeline right now. It's all... God only knows what the timeline is going to look like when City win the 115. Love that. So funny. Just seeing if there's anything else. Yeah, loads of people are quoting the Rob Draper tweet. That's embarrassing. Just seeing if there's any... I don't think there's any new information yet. Yeah, guys, just refresh and you'll be fine. Nice. Phil Casso commented on the Rob Drape update. Oh, that's funny. Right. Boom. Guys, that's hilarious. The Premier League's APT rules have been overturned. It's a legal victory for Manchester City. It's a lovely time. Had by all. Well, not everyone. It should be by everyone. But yeah, to everyone who, like, at the time was just being all blasé about it and was just saying, oh, it doesn't really mean anything. Pipe down. Yeah? Pipe down and shh. Yeah. Stay humble and all that. Yeah? Stay humble. It'll be interesting to see how this transpires and what it will actually mean for other clubs as well. Because it's not just City this will impact, of course. You know, Newcastle, I'm sure, will be happy as well. And we'll have to wait and see in terms of the latest action. But once again, whatever side of the arguments you fall upon, surely you can conclude that the Premier League are just a bunch of incompetent, negligent idiots. Whoever's in charge over there. We'll have to wait and see, Harry. We don't have full ins and outs of that. And I think on that note, Mrs. Nobbins is texting me. 1 second. I think on that note, I'm gonna maybe take some comments from the chat, and then we'll call it a day there. We did, yeah. Again, I wanted to talk about Akanji getting injured and the Newcastle game. And Nico is apparently not going to be available for Newcastle. Yes, but there's only what's it. If stuff like this comes out, then there's not so much that I can do about that. We've probably really got to talk about it, haven't we? Maybe City and the Prem will know soon. Definitely. Nottingham Forest fans crying. I don't know what that means. We might not win the league, but we've beaten the league. Yes, exactly. Newcastle and Madrid preview. Oh dear. I'm very concerned about the Newcastle game. Their midfield's going to absolutely destroy us. To be honest with you, their midfield's going to absolutely destroy us. And so I actually don't know if we're going to win that one. I'd be very surprised if we did. We have a chance against Madrid if Nico can start and if Doku can start, I think. But now Akanji's out, I actually don't know who's going to play it right back. I imagine we'll probably go back to Nunes. That would be my prediction. That would be my guess. I don't even know what I want. I actually don't know what I want, to be honest with you. But there we go. There we have it. And there we go. So I'm just reading something else. So I'm just reading something. I'm going to bookmark that. Okay, we'll see. We'll see, mate. Anyway, City to bypass Newcastle's midfield. Yeah, sure. Joelinton, Tele, Bruno will be fun to watch. Alaba and Rudiger are back for Madrid. The Alba one I'm not too concerned about. The Rudiger one, though, that's a massive L. Yeah, that's what I've just bookmarked. He's still, you know, that a meme where it's like Japanese soldier still thinks World War II is happening and it's like the 1980s or whatever it was. Yeah, it's like that. Oh, have faith in Nico partnership. That would be lovely. That would be lovely. If the mic is bugging, guys, refresh. It's nothing to do with me. Refresh your stream. It's YouTube. Haven't lost a home game in the league to Newcastle in 25 years, and I couldn't be less confident, says Herbal. Yeah, I don't know what the team's going to... You'd guess it's going to be Stones in midfield again. I mean, he proved me wrong, Stones, because based on all the other games that he played in midfield, he did not do well. Like, he did one years ago, and it was shit, and the most recent one was against Villa, where, again, it was very bad. So, the fact he was able to boss it against Madrid in a Champions League knockout game is amazing. It's going to have to happen again, isn't it? The issue now is that we need Stones to... we need Stones to start, like, 3 games in a row. When was the last time Stones did that? I don't know. Ideally, preferably, we'll have like Stones and Nico midfield. Based on that Stones performance, Stones and Nico in the midfield is probably what you'd like to see. We can't see Nico against Newcastle, so maybe Stones and Kova, but I don't know. I don't know. Thank you so much, Andy. Glad you enjoyed the show. I think with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I've spoken a lot there. My voice is starting to hurt. So I think I'm going to wrap that up. Are there any final thoughts, final questions, everyone? I won't be back tomorrow. The game is at the Etihad. You guys know I don't stream the home Etihad, the Premier League games at the Etihad. I do have a season ticket, and also there won't be a stream in the evening because I'm going out with Mrs. Nobbins. We're going to Dishoom, which is our favourite restaurant right now for Valentine's. So I'm afraid there won't be much content out tomorrow either. Apologies for that. Hopefully you can understand that it is a Valentine situation. It's a situation. Stream from the stadium. So I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for joining me, though. As always, shout out to my members. If you guys want to support your boy, and if you want to get some beautiful exclusive Nobbins merch, such as this one, you know, sporting the Nobbins logo and fraud on the back, a new design is also dropping hopefully this weekend. It's about the war on reactivism. Don't forget that hashtag war on reactivism. It's a very good design. It's probably my favorite one that I've had made. So click on that. Go check it out. You can get you can get Pep posters. You can get a Most People Are Idiots shirt. You can get fraud merchandise, and it all supports your boy, and it's all unique. And I can assure you, I'm wearing it right now. It is very high quality as well. Worldwide shipping. Shout out to all my brilliant members. Big up to them. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining me. As I say, I'll repeat, there won't be any content out tomorrow. There will be, though, on the Sunday, I'm sure. Really hope you enjoyed today. Didn't think we'd be talking about this, but here we are. So, it's the thing. And I don't want to talk about legal stuff, but we are in a situation where we have to, where we have to. So that's the thing. But guys, thank you so much once again. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to go eat some salmon, and I'll see you all next time. Let's pray for a victory tomorrow against Newcastle. Goodbye, everyone.